Welcome to Day 14 of the Canon Law in a Year podcast. Today we have Canons 64 through 67. If you want to follow along, we are using the translation from the Canon Law Society of Great Britain and Ireland, which you can see on the website www.canonlaw.ninja, linked in the description below. So we begin. Canon 64. Without prejudice to the right of the penitentiary for the internal forum, a favor refused by any department of the Roman Curia cannot validly be granted by another department of the same Curia, or by any other competent authority below the Roman pontiff, without the approval of the department which was first approached. Note: so if you request a favor from any institution of the Holy See, and it is refused, then you can't request the same favor from another institution without permission from the first one. But of course, this restriction does not apply to the Pope, who can grant things even if a lower authority refuses. Continuing with Canon 65, Paragraph 1. Without prejudice to the provisions of paragraphs 2 and 3, no one is to seek from another ordinary a favor which was refused by that person's proper ordinary, unless mention is made of the refusal. When the refusal is mentioned, the ordinary is not to grant the favor unless he has learned from the former ordinary the reasons for the refusal. Note: I'll rephrase this one and hopefully make it a bit clearer. Imagine someone goes to their bishop to request a favor, and their bishop refuses. So they want to ask a different bishop, hoping they'll get a different answer. The second bishop can grant it, but they aren't supposed to grant it before they learn why it was refused to begin with. Because maybe the first bishop had a good reason to refuse it. Continuing Canon 65, Paragraph 2. A favor refused by a vicar general or an episcopal vicar cannot be validly granted by another vicar of the same bishop, even when he has learned from the vicar who refused the reasons for the refusal. Note: this is like the previous paragraph of the canon, but just at a lower level than an ordinary. The vicar general is the bishop's deputy. And continuing Canon 65, Paragraph 3. A favor issued by a vicar general or an episcopal vicar and later, without any mention being made of this refusal, obtained from the diocesan bishop is invalid. A favor refused by the diocesan bishop cannot, without the bishop's consent, validly be obtained from his vicar general or episcopal vicar, even though mention is made of the refusal. Canon 66. A rescript is not rendered invalid because of an error in the name of the person to whom it is given or by whom it is issued, or of the place in which such person resides, or of the matter concerned, provided that, in the judgment of the ordinary, there is no doubt about the person or the matter in question. Note: so a mistake being made in the giving of a rescript does not interfere with it, as long as it was clear to the person who granted it. Canon 67. If it should happen that two contrary rescripts are obtained for one and the same thing, where specific matters are expressed, the specific prevails over the general. If both are equally specific or equally general, the one earlier in time prevails over the later, unless, in the later one, there is an express mention of the earlier, or unless the person who first obtained the rescript has not used it by reason of deceit or of notable personal negligence. In doubt as to whether a rescript is invalid or not, recourse is to be made to the issuing authority. Note: as usual, the specific prevails over the general. But a different principle is followed here than that in Canon 20, which states that if two laws are contrary, the later one takes precedence over the earlier one. For rescripts, if two are given for the same thing, the earlier takes precedence over the later, unless the later one acknowledges the earlier one, and thus there was some purposeful reason the second was given. The later one also takes precedence if the first one was never used through no fault of the recipient. So if they simply chose not to use it, this last part would not apply. That brings us to the end of Day 14. I will see you all tomorrow for Canons 68 through 75. Have a great day, and God bless you.